Have you been performing so long you don't even know who you are anymore? You've held it together, adapted, survived, but somewhere along the way, you lost your sense of self. What if your healing doesn't come from trying harder, but from rekindling that fire that got snuffed out when the world told you to hide? This coaching program is designed to help you stop patching symptoms and start rebuilding identity. You'll reconnect to your voice, your values, and your real inner strength. It's always been there. Now, I just want you to ask yourself, what would it feel like to wake up proud of who you are again? Let's find out together. Schedule your discovery call today at youradhdguy.com. Aren't you worth it?
There's other kind of meditations. There's allowing all the thoughts to come and just inviting them all in. And often when we do that is actually if we're like, no, I have to think about the breath, like it's every thought is going to come banging on that door. And if we just say, okay, you're welcome here. Come on in. Come on in. And we watch that process and we allow it. And we also allow them to move because they will move out after a while if you allow them. That can be more effective.
This is Don't Mind Me, I Just Have ADHD. But let's be real. ADHD doesn't just mean forgetfulness or fidgeting. It's meant being labeled, masking, performing just to survive in a system that wasn't designed with us in mind. The podcast isn't about fixing you. It's about unlearning the shame you were handed down. Here we talk about ADHD, trauma, addiction, depression, healing, identity. All the messy things that make us human in our life and work. And we do it with fierce kindness. I'm Ron Sowers, your ADHD guy. And if you ever felt like you had to earn your worth, if you ever struggled to slow down, speak up, or show up without a mask, welcome. You're not too much. You were never broken. And now you're waking up. Let's remember who we are together. Welcome back to Don't Mind Me, I Just Have ADHD. Today, we're diving deeper into a powerful and deeply embodied conversation with licensed therapist and sensitivity consultant, Lara Land. This is part 2 of our series, and if you've ever felt the weight of unspoken trauma, seemed like your body was possessed, or wondered how yoga, fear, and ADHD intersect, like I want to see how that works. And if you want to pause right here and check out part 1, just go over to Beyond Trauma. You don't want to miss that one. From Broadway stages to Rwandan healing circles, Laura's journey has been one of constant transformation. We unpack how trauma lives in the body, what fear is really trying to teach us, and why listening to your nervous system might be the most important decision you ever make. And stick around to the end. We're talking practical structure for ADHD minds and how movement, breath, and intention can become your most powerful healing tools. And because I like you, I got a special gift. So stick around. Hey there, I'm here with Lara Land, and she's a therapist and trauma consultant, sensitivity consultant. Welcome. I'm glad you're here.
This is so cool, Ron. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah. I love your energy that you bring.
Mm.
And for these guests, like I already mentioned in the intro, is like this is part 2. The first part's going to be on her podcast, which is exciting. It's the first time I'm doing this.
Yeah, we're doing a little swap. So make sure you listen to Beyond Trauma. And these two episodes go together. And we
Yeah.
think you're going to enjoy them and learn a lot from them.
Well, hopefully we lined up. We talked a lot about mindfulness and that practice and how to be more how that would fit in with somebody with ADHD and how to be kind on yourself. So, Laura, can you share me a bit about your background and what first drew you to practice?
Yeah, so I have a couple reincarnations. I started out actually I started out in the theater world, and as part
Mm.
of our acting training, tuning into the body, the breath, our reactions, our automatic reactions, how we move, how we carry tension in the body, just how our environment and our relationships impact us as characters and as people on stage. And I found all that stuff more interesting than performing. I love
Mm.
the process, getting into the role, understanding the psychology of a character and
Yeah.
understanding the breath and how our voice is communicating our emotions and our how alert we are and our tension level and everything. So I got more into movement, body, breath work, and ultimately yoga,
Yeah.
which is really beautiful practice for clearing the channel, releasing tension, releasing emotional stress that gets stored in our bodies, grounding, letting things go into the earth, and doing less, which I learned from yoga a lot and from Alexander technique of like
Mm.
how to use the right amount or I would like to say like appropriate amount of energy, of tension to get a job done instead of sort of overdoing, which is a lot of what I was doing in my younger years. So there was just so much that came out of that, and I got deeply into yoga for over 2 decades, teaching
Wow.
yoga and specifically trauma sensitive yoga.
Yeah, I've definitely liked that with the theater aspect. It that's an interesting way that you looked at. We're able to see that. Like what brought you into that like headspace of like, okay, maybe what attracted you to that trauma and like learning more about that.
Well, the trauma part, so I started to notice the connection, right, between the mind and the body and breath and emotions. And then I got really into yoga. I started to see how I could release tension that was stored in my body through the practice
Yeah.
and go, after practicing, I could relate to people more openly, more in the moment without bringing a lot of baggage to it, assumptions, just by being more relaxed in my body, when our muscles
Mm.
are relaxed. It gives a feeling of relaxation emotionally and mentally as well. And there's been studies about this where they give people like muscle relaxers, and when your muscles are relaxed, your actual stress level goes down. So
Yeah.
it's very much connected. So um and then over some time I was invited to go to Rwanda to work with genocide survivors there, to bring them practice of yoga to see if it would be helpful. Obviously, they've been through terrible trauma. I worked with women and children in Rwanda who had survived the genocide, many of HIV positive, and we shared yoga, and I learned a lot from them about, laughter
Mm.
um, and being in the moment and community healing um, and sharing yoga practice in a way that empowers the practitioner. Um, so not so top down, I'm the teacher and you do this, but
Mm.
more of listening to the students, watching
Ooh.
and watching them for cues, because sometimes people will tell you with their bodies what they won't tell you with their words, like they may not feel, I can tell this person, no, I don't want to do that, but you can see that the body is saying stop, that's enough. And so I started
Mm.
looking for those cues and helping people to bring them out to say like I see like your body doesn't want to do that right now, like, and encouraging them to listen to their bodies instead of what they thought that yoga is supposed to be or what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Those body cues. So I'm sure that really, really helped. Like your theater background really helped to kind of see that a little bit better because of
Yeah.
it. They would practice like improv, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Like being more in the moment. A lot of the yoga training that I had was very like listen to the teacher. And of course there's an element of what anyone with
Yeah,
expertise can bring into the room. But I think we need more like listening to our own selves, the quiet part of ourselves that we don't always hear because we're doing what we think we should be doing.
yeah,
So I started to use yoga as a way to help people remember their personal power, help people listen to the subtle voice, and
yeah,
that translates off the mat. Um, so that comes up in conversations with in life with people of authority, with partners, how to feel your own boundaries, how to feel what's comfortable for you, how to speak what your body is telling you. These are all things that we practice on the yoga mat that generalize into life.
yeah. That's awesome. I used to do yoga, and I would get benefits out of that, but it's just like and I've been meaning to get back into that practice. It's just with everything going on, it's hard to like remember, especially with ADHD. Do you have any experience with people with ADHD along your journey?
Yeah, a little bit. I've treated a few folks with that diagnosis in my therapeutic practice. I've
Hmm.
had some friends who I've also worked with in my nonprofit, which serves trauma survivors. And so I've had some experience with folks with ADHD and and hearing their stories of just how that impacts them. Um, Not always feeling comfortable just staying with one
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and just their listening to their needs and what can make environments more comfortable for them or help them to achieve their goals.
Yeah, yeah, that's huge. The environment is 100%, how we thrive. It's like the soil that we grow in, and a lot of it's poisoned with shame and
Mm.
guilt and that trauma that we carry with ourselves. I'm sure, you know, um, yoga, do you bring yoga into that therapy or into that trauma work?
Yeah, I bring a lot of the tenets of yoga and mindfulness, and somatic experiencing, feeling the body into the therapeutic room. So, a lot of what I'll do with folks is grounding into the present moment when they arrive. Like, can you feel your feet on the ground? Can you feel your body in the chair?
Hmm.
Can we come into this space fully? Because people come in with their whole day
Yeah,
um sometimes if you skip that you don't get to deeper root of what's going on. You just you're kind of working on surface things or people forgot what they wanted to talk about,
yeah,
and that's a shame, whereas if you take a few minutes in the beginning of a session to tune in, slow down, you can get a lot deeper with folks.
yeah.
And I think that's really important. I know one patient who I work with therapeutically, we did a lot of she really loved breathing technique
Hmm.
and just focusing on the breath. And I like to bring the touch into it because I find that grounds it. So if it feels comfortable for someone to put a hand on the heart, a hand on the belly, so that you're not just breathing, which, some people do get lost in thought, which is fine. It's so normal.
Yeah.
but it can help to ground even more deeply into present moment, to sometimes feel the weight of the hand.
Yeah.
Um, Also, folks can go to the other part of this episode. We talked a lot about the self-acceptance. You spoke a lot about self-acceptance on my
Yeah.
podcast. And for me, when I put a hand on the heart, that's like the physical manifestation of that. Like, you're
Yeah.
okay. I
Yeah.
see you. I feel you. Um, it's all right, however it is right now.
Yeah.
And holding that. And so giving a touch with that, I think, magnifies that. And we practice that in session, and then folks practice that outside in their real lives. And I always encourage people to practice when they're feeling good, not wait till they're triggered.
Yeah.
If you practice just when you're fine, during normal, not when you need it, it'll be more readily available when you need it. Because when we get upset, when we get emotional, when something happens,
Yeah.
um, that's not the time that we're most likely to remember. But
Yeah.
if we've already ingrained a habit, then it'll be more easily at our fingertips. Like, okay, this is what I always do. I take a breath. But it's important to practice first, not necessarily when we need it, when we're dysregulated, but during kind of normal times so it becomes more ingrained in our system.
No, that's huge, and I definitely noticed that in my own practice is like, even the time, because when I do it on like a schedule to a degree, and it's built in, so it's like I notice these times when I'm normally, when I can get down and when I really need it, it's like it kind of kicks in on its
Yeah,
own, and
exactly.
because I've actually created this mindset that's like more positive. Yeah, the negative thoughts get in there, but there's like other ones that are like, you know what? You pay attention. This is what you did. Look at the day. It's a beautiful day. Like, it's always trying to reinforce the positive rather than there was none of that before. It was all
Mm,
negative. It was all focused on what I didn't do, what I couldn't do, what I should have done,
mm,
and those things I really couldn't change in the moment,
yeah.
but I can change those things. And I loved what you talked about with the hand on the heart. Like that is like when with touch, we especially I feel men, like we don't
Hmm.
get a lot of self-touch or loving touch,
That's right.
especially early on in our life. And, one of the things that, I'll do is like I'll hug a pillow or I'll hold myself and, that rubbing, like, it's like you're the child that's hurt
Hmm.
and the parent that the
Yeah.
child needed at the same time. Sitting, and it's all we needed was somebody to sit and understand us in that
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
It's huge. What do people like, when you introduce the yoga into the sessions, how's their reaction to that?
Well, it's not forced on anyone, so I kind of feel it out. People know from my background that I I have the ability to bring in Eastern and Western traditions,
Mhm.
cognitive, emotional and body-based therapies. So, I kind of, they know that if they know my profile, and they have looked at me before. Um, I don't I don't go into doing like a lot of people have an idea I can't do yoga.
And
It's
then
not for me. I'm not flexible.
up, down, dog.
Right. And we're not doing a whole like, it could just be like, breathing and moving arms overhead and exhaling, putting the arms down. Just to notice, like feeling the body in space, right? Feeling through a very small practice, how much tension am I bringing to this? Can I do this same activity with a little bit less? um, how we can take any interaction, any anything we do in our life and just bring some intentionality to it. Do I want it to have a bright energy? Do I want to be receptive in this moment? Like we can bring some feeling tones into our interactions.
Yeah.
We can set an intention. I'm going to sit back and listen more in this meeting. Or I'm gonna lean in a little more. I'm gonna, so we can actually work with that, and the body can teach us a lot about that by its brightness, by how relaxed it is. So
Mm.
we can sometimes, people think yoga is all about getting very relaxed, but it can also bring some energy. It can bring some clarity. It can bring some focus when we're feeling kind of like slumpy or sleepy.
Yeah.
So it's more about balancing and having a balanced energy. And I think it's a lot about being appropriate for what's called for in the moment. What do we need right now? What does
Yeah.
this challenge need? Maybe it needs a kind of hands off, I need to
Yeah.
kind of, and or maybe it needs me to get more involved. So it helps us to, and we don't always have the answer, but it helps us to ask the questions and to listen. Sometimes the body knows before the mind.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you intuitively know what the answer is, but
Yeah,
oftentimes we're like afraid
yeah,
to actually do it, or we need to have a space to be able to speak it,
yeah,
and actually, and when we, either we speak it in a way that's like, okay, well, that's not true, or we speak it in a way that's like, man, why didn't I do this before? And so with the mindfulness, like there's mindful yoga.
hmm
Is that like something different, or is that just like a part of yoga, do you feel?
yeah. For me, that's a piece of the whole.
Yeah.
Yoga is we when we talk about yoga here in the West, people are immediately imagining the body moving in the shapes upward, downward dog, like you said.
Hmm.
But really, it's a system that includes ethics, ethical considerations, how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, disciplines, um,
Interesting.
breathing techniques, and of course, meditation, mindfulness, different levels of concentration. So it's a whole philosophical system that impacts all parts of our lives. Um, it's all in there.
So you got to do some like studying a little bit.
Yeah, if you're interested in understanding and incorporating the many aspects of yoga, the eight limbs of yoga, there is studying and reading involved. A lot of people come to the physical practice and their doctor told them, or a friend told them they should do
Mm.
it, or they want to get toned, or their back hurts, or for a wide variety of reasons. And they start to discover that it's impacting other parts of their lives and they want to learn more about it. And then they take on other things um, like concentrating the mind, breathing techniques. Maybe they start to think about some of the more philosophical aspects, like what does it mean to not cause harm or to be a force of creating good?
Mm.
What does it mean to be truthful? Those are some of the questions that we ask ourselves, like, am I being truthful to myself? When confronted, you mentioned fear a lot as
Yeah.
something that comes up for a lot of folks with ADHD or a lot of people that you work with. And fear is a very interesting one, right? It's just like where is this coming from? What is the truth that it's trying to teach me? You
Yeah.
know, it could be pointing toward that I care about this thing, that
Yeah.
I care about this person. I don't want to disappoint them. And what does that mean? Right? We could go deeper with that. It's
Hmm.
like, can I be a disappointment? If they're looking at me like that, is that coming from them or is that coming from me? And it can open up a conversation. What are my beliefs about my innate goodness, my innate okayness? Where did I get a belief that I'm not good enough? When did I first come across that? Is it true? Is it always true I feel that way? Do I feel that way only at certain times, only around
Mm.
certain people? Are there times when I don't feel that way? So there's just, and these are all questions that we can journal on, we can meditate on, and that can draw us to deeper truth, self-discovery. And then
Yeah.
hopefully when we have that insight, then we put it into action. So, and I think sometimes when you get therapy or cognitive therapy without the body, um, you get insight without embodied action.
Mm.
Sometimes when you get a lot of the physical work without the insight, um, you don't know why you're doing things, what's the deeper. So when you put it together and you get the insight, like, and then you change the behaviors, um, hopefully, and that leads to a more congruent life. And when we're acting as we believe, and we're speaking as we believe, and that comes together, I think we feel less tension, less conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And thank you for enlightening me on yoga and the many I didn't know. Honestly just didn't know that it was that deep. And
Yeah.
you talked about, yeah, that ability to go through that fear, to explore that fear on a deeper level. And part of part of the recovery process, because I'm also an addict, and part of that process, they talk about, that a lot of the issues that arise come from either a place of self-centered, uh, it's either from self-centeredness or fear.
Hmm.
So it's like, what am I, if I'm getting angry in this situation, what am I really afraid of? Like,
Yeah.
say, if somebody cuts me off in traffic, I'm really just scared that, my life was put in danger, suddenly, because or whatever that looks like. It's like there's some type of fear that's going on that we're scared of, that we react in a defensive way.
Exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
like explore, and it goes deeper and deeper. And, through that exploration of like, why do I act this way? Why did I become so, like, why did I become, why did I treat women so bad? And why did I, um, do the things why did I try to become a gangster, and be hard when nothing about me was that way. And
Hmm.
it came from a place of like that I just didn't feel like I was worthy of love,
Mm.
because I didn't get that from my dad growing up,
Yeah.
and it was like when I first learned that, it was like it was so eye-opening that it was like, yeah, no wonder I do all these things, because I really just want people to love me, and I just never feel like it's worthy. But I've never was able to admit that to myself, because I didn't want that love at the same time, because the love that I got never was taken away. So I was
Yeah.
always afraid of, you know, putting myself in that situation. So there was
Yeah.
always these walls that were built up, and this persona and this mask of who I was. And it was just exhausting. And when I
Mm.
was able to like let go of that, like there was such a freedom. Like I don't have to pretend like, I don't have to like just frown all day long.
Mm.
Not that I smile as much as I would like to, but honestly, it's about, it's about being your authentic self. And
Yeah.
sometimes you would like to smile, but you're just not feeling it, and when I do smile, it's a lot more authentic, and it is a lot more often, because my
Mm.
therapist actually was telling me from the beginning, from when he first saw me, he's like, you smile a lot, you're just such a different person. And it's like being able to see that growth is
Mm.
like an amazing gift of like why this is why I do what I do for those people that wouldn't have had that chance.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you shared a lot there. A lot of important stuff as far as trauma and life experience and attachment wounds and when someone is abandoned by a parental figure, it could be that they leave or they don't give that abandonment could be they don't show that love.
Yeah,
Um, and then it's kind of typical, normal for the human to try to push people away before they abandon them.
yeah,
A lot of folks, it'll take them a really long time to believe that someone won't leave them, and they might test that. They might try to do everything they can to the people closest to them to make them leave, just to
yeah,
prove that see
yeah,
people always leave. And that's normal because that child, as you were talking about earlier, was
yeah,
wounded. And so that insight and then that reparenting that you were talking about of like giving yourself that love and acceptance that you didn't receive. And it can also happen through the therapeutic relationship,
mhm,
because that therapist is showing you a safe, accepting relationship where they don't leave you, where they continue showing up no matter what you share.
yeah,
No matter if you make progress, quote unquote progress or not, they're there sitting there for you every week or whatever it is. And a lot can be healed. That's a very, very special relationship between the therapist and the patient. And part of that relationship is the healing and the showing of what a good, loving, caring, boundaried relationship can be.
yeah. And it's that developing that trust because it's been broken, and one of the things that really was hard for me to get around was like I just didn't think that what happened in my childhood had any effect on who I am
Sure.
today.
Yeah.
So it
It's
was
like, why
like
are we
this,
talking about that? That's
yeah.
long ago. Like, I'm so past that.
Like
Yeah.
the first thing that, really opened that door was like I had um this thing about people waiting for me. I didn't like it. It gave me a lot of anxiety, and I talked about it with my therapist, and he was like, "Well, was there any time in your life that, you got in trouble because you were late?" And I was like, "Yeah, my dad would punish me if I was like 5 minutes late." And he was like, "Yeah, that's it." And I was like, "It can't be that simple. Like that can't have that effect on me." But it really, once I started to warm up with that to that idea, it was like, wow, and like understand that like neglect is traumatic,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it can be
yeah.
even
Oh,
more
yeah.
traumatic than physical abuse
Mm-hmm.
because it's something that we really can't talk about, we really
Yeah.
can't pinpoint, and I didn't when I cried, like I cried in front of my dad, like I didn't realize when I admitted that, that was trauma, that was actually like I didn't know why that affected me. But
Mm.
when I did more exploring about that, it was like, wow, I expected him to embrace me and hug me and tell me it's okay. And that
Yeah.
never happened.
Yeah.
All I got was disappointment. So it makes sense like why anytime that happened in my life moving forward, I reacted the same exact way that my dad did because like I didn't want to be hurt like that again.
Yeah.
And um yeah, it was powerful. And not to like I love my dad. He was always there for me. And I understand he was dealing with his own trauma
Mm-hmm.
and he was actually doing a better job
Right.
than what he was raised by. So but I've got to be able to experience, and allow myself to, that was traumatic.
Yeah.
That did happen,
Yeah.
and I need to heal from that and process that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, when we talk about events that could lead to a trauma response, because there's all different events,
Yeah.
and some people have trauma from them and some people don't. The same two people can go through
Yeah.
I mean, two different people can go through the same event. But a lot of times what people forget is neglect, because it's easier to know what we see than to realize what wasn't there.
Yeah.
But what wasn't there is as important as what was there. So neglect, not getting loving touch, eye contact, attuned, what we call an attuned, which is an appropriate response. So,
Yeah.
if you're crying, if a kid is crying, they need that adult figure to calm them, to show them. Otherwise, the nervous system learns that, no one will be there. And so it
Mm.
either, gets kind of hard, covers that up, gets defensive. It has all these adaptations. And
Yeah.
later, unless you look at it, you just think that's how I am, but then as you start to look at it, you go, oh, I'm this way because this happened. I can decide to make another choice. I don't have to react in these ways. They're not mandated. It's just kind of what my child self had to do to survive.
Yeah.
That adaptation was very important as a child. You know, you to make sure you're on time, to make sure whatever ways you adapted to your circumstances as a child, that was survival.
Yeah.
As an adult, you can say, I don't need to do that way anymore. I'm a grown up.
Yeah.
Dad's not here in charge. I'm in charge. And so the power of like therapy and mindfulness and learning insight is that we get to make new choices.
Yeah. No, definitely. And it's been quite the journey of growth and discovery, and it's just been something that I completely value. I oftentimes look back to where I was,
Hmm.
and in a way that's like it just reminds me of like that's where I could go
Yeah.
if I don't continue doing the work, or if I decide to pick up again.
Hmm.
It's like understanding those boundaries, like just because I've gotten good at this and use that mindfulness to like explore these issues and like understand where they are,
Yeah.
and where they're coming from, because it's like those stories, that
Yeah.
is those adaptations, and we're always going so fast, especially people with ADHD. Like I know for me, it was going like 100 miles an hour. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to make up for lost time, I have to whatever's in front of me, it has to be done because I can't sit with myself. I can't sit with these stories that I'm telling myself
Yeah.
because they're so toxic and so pervasive. So it's like with mindfulness, I'm able to analyze those stories and
Hmm.
see. And one of the things that really helped me in the beginning was like I've had this depression, and it was, finally I was able to admit to it and like look into it, and I realized like it was actually I was more depressed than I thought I was because I was ignoring it.
Mm.
So there was like one day I felt really depressed because no one was calling me to check up on me, and I felt like that I attached my worth to that. I was
Hmm.
like really really feeling down on myself, and so I remember this practice of like, all right, we these are the stories we tell ourselves, and I kind of had this idea of like these thoughts are like a running river of, they just go, but there's one thought like that depression was like a boulder
Mm.
and it was stuck in that river and going around it, but I was like, is that true? I'm actually practicing mindfulness right now, so that can't be true because like I love myself enough to do these things to become a better person. And it was like I was able to at least change the narrative on that
Yeah.
day, and feel better about, and that depression was still there, but it was like slowly losing its form.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
powerful.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Thank
part
you.
of the poly original, the definition of mindfulness has to do with memory. So we bring, we have to first of all remember to be mindful. But we also have to like look back and remember, like you use a lot of memory to support you in your growth. You remember where you were and how it felt, not just intellectually, but it didn't feel good, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of, I mean, I think one of the biggest pitfalls is when people start to feel better, or get a little bit away from their addiction for just that right amount of time, they forget how bad it was.
Yeah.
So there's actually a power in remembering, because when we forget, it's easier to go back there. When we remember and keep alive, like that wasn't good, then we're not less likely to
Yeah.
to make those mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, not to hold on to those in a negative way, but just to, embrace it as like, okay, that's part of who I am, that part of that acceptance. Like I will always have that will always be a risk for me.
Hmm.
So I need to make sure that I'm putting myself in an environment around people that support my growth,
Yeah.
that really add to who I am
Yeah.
so that I don't continue to fall back in those. And also to look at myself and be like, look how far I've come. And
Hmm.
even with the problems that I have today, like it's so much better. Like I get to have these problems.
Yeah.
Like I get to go through these challenges. Yeah, life is just gonna be difficult, but it's like it could be a lot worse. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is a lot worse for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and a word that's come up a few times, I think it's very important, is environment. We talked about it a little bit, but
yeah.
who we surround ourselves with, that's what we consider normal.
Hmm.
And so, that's something that is sometimes left out of clinical mental health counseling, clinical therapy, like Western models is really looking at the environment. Like we think it can all be done on the individual basis. We sit in this room together one on one and we get to the root of the problems. But if the person is still, surrounded by or stuck in a environment with people with a different mindset or is still experiencing trauma,
Yeah.
um, you know, it, it's you have to look at the environment, the family environment, the um, the societal, like from the friends and the culture and the neighborhood, and then the bigger society as well, how the laws and the systems are affecting the person,
Yeah.
and how those different environments are interacting. Um, So,
Yeah.
it's not just, I'm gonna fix the person or fix myself. This is all relational. This is all, we're in relationship and um, changing environments, as you know, I'm sure very well. Who you hang out with, who are the people around you, is going to have a big impact on your mindset and your mental health.
Yeah, those people, places, and things, like the things that
Yeah.
you have in your life too. Like maybe some things you just need to let go of because you can't, like if it's candy in the house, like
Mm.
and you struggle with that, don't keep candy in the house.
Right.
Like you got to get rid of those things.
Yeah,
And about fixing, like there's no such thing as fixing.
that's
Nothing
right.
fixes you. There's no pill, there's no magic pill. There's no magic thing that's gonna like fix you. And you really don't want to be fixed because like life is boring after you're like
Yeah,
fixed.
yeah,
So it's about, just growth and
yeah,
becoming a better person. And every day is like a um new opportunity to be able to do that.
yeah.
So many people with ADHD struggle to stick to routines. How
Hmm.
can yoga be adapted into something approachable and realistic?
Yeah, yoga is great. So I mean, yoga has this like it has the roots of like discipline, and
Yeah.
structure. So like you mentioned on my podcast how you do your morning mindfulness walk. some people like I did for many, many years, 6 days a week, like got up, did my yoga routine. It's kind of like brushing teeth. Like, you
Mm.
just after a while you just do it. It's so like routine.
Yeah.
And the practice that I did, it was like a set structure. So you never had to think about like what moves you were gonna do, but you could like find variety within the moves, which is also kind of something we talked about of like, I'm gonna do a walk every day, but maybe I'll switch up the walk a little bit, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
A lot of folks that I've helped with ADHD, we talk about batching things together. So like you only have to make one decision, and then a series of things kind of happen after that to help stay like on that path. So it's like you already have the mat and the clothes
Yeah.
there, you're already signed up, and so like that's just a part of your flow of your day, like your coffee or your tea place that you go to is right there, so it's like it makes it more easily connected for you,
Yeah.
if it's integrated into your routine, and you don't have to make choice, like if you are deciding every day, do I feel like doing this? Do I not feel like doing this? And
Yeah.
there's room for that. There's days to lean into like, laying in bed and whatnot. But I
Yeah.
find
You
that
got to listen to your body.
you have to listen to your body and sometimes the routine, the getting up, because once you move for a few minutes, you feel really good. So giving
Yeah.
yourself that like, all right, I can do stop after 10 minutes if I don't want to do it. But I'm gonna step on that mat every day. I'm gonna
Mm.
use the discipline and the routine to get me out of bed, to like get me into my day. And I always have also choice within that. Because most times, once you get up and start doing it, you feel better. So you want to do it more.
Yeah.
Um, so I find sometimes, it's easier. One thing we used to say a lot in yoga, it's like easier to do something every day than some days. Because if you kind of giving yourself every day, like maybe I'll do it, maybe I'll not do it, it's like, it's a mental tension. It's a load,
Yeah.
If you've already decided this is part of who I am, this is my routine, I have this is the structure of my day. It's actually like more relaxing, you know,
Yeah.
than to have to like push yourself and every day, the decision is made for you. It's already lined up for you.
Yeah, nice. And it's about I like that saying where they talked about in yoga, like leave it on the mat.
Hmm.
Like leave all those tension, leave what your misgivings or whatever that is on the mat
Yeah.
and do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just usually when I start something for 5 minutes, it's 15 minutes later and I'm like, I'm so glad I did this.
Exactly. And a lot of people think yoga has to be like an hour and a half class. It does not. You can do 5 minutes, you can do 10 minutes. So don't think all or nothing. That's another thing that's I think is important. People a lot of times think if
Yeah.
they don't have even that number 20 minutes came out really big about meditation. Like you don't have to have 20 minutes. You could have 20 seconds to check in.
Yeah.
Something is better than nothing. Progress is more important than perfection. Do something. Do 5 minutes of checking in with your body. That's 5 minutes every day is better than an hour once a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So a lot of folks with ADHD crave structure but resist it at the same time.
Yeah.
How can planning and organizing be done in a way that feels safe and not overwhelming?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to tell me. Um, I think the batching has been really helpful for a lot of folks. The some of the things that we've talked about with mindfulness and meditation, like that self-compassion, that leaving some space for mystery, for creativity,
Yeah.
but also having tools that help from getting way off track so you can feel accomplished. I love the sticky notes. I love timers, reminders, calendar, things in my calendar. Um, I
Yeah.
find, really, really helpful. Dedicated times for dreaming, you know,
Mm.
um, so,
Like
if,
daydreaming.
yeah.
Nice.
Like, because a lot of people with ADHD, they were told, like, don't do that, and like, that's not okay. And, stop looking out the window. And so it's sometimes it's a similar technique that we use with grief is like, give time for that, So like, have a dedicated, whatever it is, 10, 20 minutes, an hour. That's my time that I'm allowed to let it run wild.
Yeah.
Um, same thing. I'll give another one with meditation. A lot of people think that meditation is like focusing the mind on the breath in and out, and you can't think of anything else. There's other kind of meditations. There's there's allowing all the thoughts to come and just inviting them all in.
Yeah.
And often when we do that is actually if we're like, no, I have to think about the breath, like it's every thought is going to come banging on that door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we just say, okay, you're welcome here. Come on
Yeah.
in. And we watch that process and we allow it. And we also allow them to move, because they will move out after a while if you allow them. That can be more effective. So try welcoming it in. Especially if you've been fighting it,
Oh
give
yeah.
a time where you sit and really let it all come in, because it's usually like what we're avoiding and what we're fighting that's gonna bang harder. And so when we actually accept it's there, it stops banging so loudly at the door.
I know it's like one of the things that I've learned towards the beginning of the mindfulness journey was like this thought of like um most people like you have the prefrontal cortex, and that's like the old butler is like, yo, you placed, where did I put my keys? Oh, you put them over there, and like on the mantle. But with the ADHD brain, it's more like that part's not, you don't hear that part. You just
Mm.
hear the emotional part of the brain yelling like an angry neighbor over the fence. So it's like when I started practicing I was like, okay, just let the neighbor yell.
Yeah,
Like just
exactly.
he'll get tired.
Exactly. Like
But
that's
if
it.
you fight it and you ignore it, it's just it's gonna give him power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
It's gonna
it's
just keep
interesting.
going louder.
So what do you wish mental health professionals better understood about trauma's impact on the body?
Oh, yeah. You know, the way trauma is processed is very different from just like the way an average memory is processed. It skips that and it is stored in the body. And so you can't talk a person out of those reactions. The
Yeah.
body really has to be brought into it. And so I think it would be helpful for anyone who's focused on the cognitive side of things, to also have some experience with the body, with just noticing people's tensions, people's um, tics, habits of how people move, because you
Hmm.
can see a lot and learn a lot about what's happening emotionally, through watching their physical patterns. And there's some things that are pre-language, that happened to us
Hmm.
before we had words.
Yeah.
If your trauma occurred before that, it's clear that it's not. There's nothing that talking it through is going to
Yeah.
do. It's like,
Wow.
the body has to know that it's safe. And it's otherwise, as much as you talk to it, it's still gonna jump. It's still
Yeah.
gonna, if someone comes at you with a fist, with a slap, you're gonna jump. Well,
Yeah.
someone who's been through trauma has that jumping experience in their body. from something that someone else would think is nothing. Like, why are
Yeah.
you jumping at that? You know,
Hmm.
their body can go into shakes, into sweats, from something that seems like absolutely nothing to another person. You can't talk yourself out of that. You have to teach the nervous system that it's safe. And that's a process, because if you try and calm too quickly, it actually gets more
Yeah,
jumpy
yeah,
because calm feels scary. So
yeah.
you have to kind of teach the person that it's safe to feel calm. And that's a process, and it's a physically involved process. It's a nervous system response, which means it's our muscles, it's our breathing, it's our, it's our digestion. This is all related.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I love that you talked about it like pre-language, and they one of the things that they talk that I heard recently is like trauma, especially under with anxiety attacks, like trying to calm yourself is just going to make things worse.
Yeah.
But one of the strengths that you can bring into it is like curiosity,
Yeah.
like asking it, like because anxiety and curiosity and genuine curiosity cannot exist in the same plane.
Yeah.
So one has to override the other, and
Yeah.
like being curious about like, okay, where's that feeling coming from? Like what triggered that? Or ooh, or just being like, man, that's really like a strong wave right there. Like, where's that coming from in my body? Just like really exploring it in a curious way and not just trying to like, I need to get rid of this anxiety right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's a wave, and it's like trying to stop a wave with a hand.
Yeah.
Like, there's this, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
It's going to keep
Yeah.
coming.
No, staying curious. I mean, that's a post that I have everywhere. It's
Yeah,
just stay curious, stay curious.
it's so powerful.
Yeah.
So how can friends, family, or workplaces better support someone using yoga as part of their healing,
Mm.
especially in like I say a workplace?
Oh, I mean, I do go into workplaces sometimes. I worked with the Estee Lauder and a few other companies to, have a movement break. I used to do some things with HBO, just
Nice.
offering, um, you know, a lot of creativity comes out when you get into that relaxed mind state, when you move the body, as we were talking about. So it's actually great for employees, for problem solving. Um, yeah, it's a great benefit. It's not for everyone, so I don't want to be like a, the missionary of yoga, but the yoga practices, yoga at the desk,
Yeah.
um, taking a mindful break, moving the body. I mean, we're getting strains in our backs and our necks, and so, I mean, these are all great benefits for employers to offer.
So is there like desk yoga or
Yeah, there's
yeah,
yoga you can do at your desk, in your chair.
nice.
I'm sitting in a chair now. I can just do a gentle twist.
Yeah.
I moved my arms up and down before with you. I can
Yeah.
hang forward. I can use the desk to stretch my back and pull my chair away from the desk,
Nice.
which is great. I can just shrug my shoulders up and down, and I can even like stretch my eyes. There's a lot of cool studies around. We were talking a little bit on my podcast about the narrow focus and then the softening and widening of focus with the
Mm.
eyes. And so even just relaxing your focus and taking a minute break to use your peripheral vision when you're sitting at a desk for a long time and let your eyes kind of like lose focus because we're so
Yeah.
like hyper focused trying to read the words. So that's connected to more relaxation and more creativity. As we say, like a open mind. So letting the eyes see as far to the sides of your periphery vision as you can actually help with problem solving and creative solutions.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's some trauma therapy with like gaze spotting or something like that that I've heard of, that I've read about.
Yeah,
But
brain spotting. I've done, which is um, sort of, comes, I think, from the same um, ideas as like an EMDR. In the brain spotting, you kind of follow a wand back and
Yeah.
forth and you pause it. And I found it very, very helpful. Um, Very tiring. It's amazing. At the end, it was like a huge release, and I like slept for days. So we
Wow.
know that, the eyes are part of the exposed part of the brain. So
Mm.
definitely things that we do with the eyes impact the brain. So softening the focus is gonna affect how we think. And also we know that like these cross movements, so also with the body, anytime you can like cross left over right, right over left, um, that's really good for
Yeah.
brain functioning as well. So just making sure that you're incorporating some different movements for the body is also brain work.
That's awesome. You are like a wellspring of great wisdom and knowledge. Unfortunately, we've run out of time and we could go on forever, but like how do people get in touch with you?
Yes, please go to my site, laraland.us. Um, and I have lots of great tools and gifts there, either for therapy, yoga, mindfulness. I have some mini meditations that are free. Obviously, my podcast, Beyond Trauma. I'd love to see you over there.
Yeah.
And Lara Land Therapy on Instagram is where I'm most active socially.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. And if you guys, want to check out more of this, hop on over to part one on Beyond Trauma. That was a great episode. I definitely learned a lot, and you've got like so much zest, so much creativity and spirituality like that I can see. And it's great that you're in the world helping people out.
Oh, thanks, Ron. I'm right back at you. It's been wonderful getting to know you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, that's it. You take care.
Thanks. Thanks so much.
Bye. And hey, if you're anything like me and just can't get enough, I want to invite you to head on over to part one, if you haven't already, of this incredible conversation with Laura Land on her own podcast, Beyond Trauma. I had the honor and privilege of being a guest, and we switched it up, going deep into topics like ADHD, healing, and what it really means to find your voice after pain. That episode just dropped. So if you want the full picture, head over to Beyond Trauma with Laura Land and give it a listen. Your ears won't let you live it down if you don't. Yeah. And before I forget, I've got a brand new gift to show how much I appreciate you. It's a short video I created called Master the Moment, becoming magnetic in every introduction. And it's something I wish I had when I was just starting out. If you ever struggle with making eye contact, not knowing what to say, or feeling awkward when you meet someone new, right here, this is for you. It's short, it's powerful, and it'll change the way you show up in those small but high stakes moments. You can find that at youradhdguy.com. It'll also be in the show notes. And as always, if this episode moved you, helped you, or just made you feel a little more seen, hit follow, share it with a friend, and keep showing up. Because you're not broken. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. Let's uncover that treasure of who you are. And as always, may the source be with you and God bless.